Weird dreams. Definitely weird dreams. One of my dreams was coming after someone who I thought had done me wrong, and it turned out that they hadn't. So that was kind of weird. All right. So the title of today's training is "You Can't Feel Freedom Without Gratitude." I just want to kind of frame that out for you before we go into the training. But gratitude is the kind of the ultimate moment enhancer. It's pretty neutral. Gratitude kind of gets you to zero. Gratitude helps getting you to the moment. And it's always accessible. As long as you're alive, gratitude is accessible. And gratitude does a lot of wonderful biological things. So if you think about that, and then you think about the context of freedom, well, what does freedom actually mean? Well, freedom is the ability to make your own choices. Freedom is the ability to, look to the past and look to the future without seeing a whole bunch of hurdles. Looking to the past, you see a past that is, it's kind of founded on truth and founded on kind of lived experience, societal lived experience, personal lived experience, and then restrictions on the future. The beauty of the American experience is that the future, in many ways it doesn't, but in many ways it offers a lot of options. And so the experience itself of freedom is an experience of openness, of kind of freedom of thought. There's a downhill nature to freedom that in America there's an opportunity that is unavailable in other parts of the world. Well, to actually feel that, to feel it as a lived experience, can only take place if there is gratitude, and gratitude is taking place in the moment. So if you're not practicing showing gratitude for aspects of your life, you're going to miss the freedoms and the feelings of the freedoms that you actually have. And on the other half of the training, I'll explain why I think that is, and why it's actually a form of manipulation that we kind of experience through our economy and through our politics. So I'll see you on the other side of the training. And in that case, please get settled in, because we're about to begin. Okay. So find your seat, find a comfortable way to set yourself up. And here comes first bell. Sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. Start to slow down. Be more intentional about how you're moving. So if you're moving your head or moving your body or yawning, just intentionally slow down. Now, starting with the eyes, notice variations in your visual field, light and shadow, color, movement. If you feel safe, go ahead and close your eyes. Come into sense of sound. And just kind of move out from close in. So kind of make a circle around your body. Notice if there's sound close to you. Then make a bigger circle. Notice if there's sound. Notice if there's sound in the bigger circle. Then a bigger circle. So in my kind of fourth circle, there's the sound of the hum of the refrigerator. Everything else is silent. If I go out even further, I'd say about 14 feet, I'm outside my house. If I go out even further, I'm into my backyard and the road. Now into my backyard and the road, there's some birds, but not a lot. It's very minimal bird sounds this morning. If I go out, say 50 yards in all directions, still quiet. It's a quiet morning. If I go out 250 yards in all directions, I meet the main road and I can't hear anything. It's quiet. Notice temperature. It was hot. Hotter today, hot this morning. I can feel my clothing kind of pressing against my skin. Taste. Noticing moisture. Teeth, cheeks. Smell. It's a hint of cardboard. That's really it. All right, let's move into second bell. Getting to the body, feel your ground. Move up from your ground into your pelvis. Move into the core. Move into the heart space. Into the throat. Face and head. Let's move into third bell. Focus on your breathing. Focus on your breathing. Just notice where it sits presently. What it's doing at the present moment. It's unavoidable for me to notice that a train about 2 miles away, actually it's 2 miles away, is showing up. I can hear the horn. I can kind of hear, just kind of feel the vibration. But I digress. Where's your breath? What's it doing? Without changing your breath, if you just stop it, just stop your breathing right now. How long can you hold? happens when you hold? What do you feel? Let's be more mindful. Be more mindful about your posture, about your breathing in general. So now take a moment to build your alignment according to your ground, pelvis, core, heart space, throat, top of the head. Maybe move your shoulders a little bit, shake it out a little bit. Take a deep breath in, really take a deep breath, and this time hold it. When you let it out, see if you can notice the relief rebound. The way your body offers a sense of relief when the breath comes back. What does that feel like? Does it still feel like anything? Where do you feel it? How intense is it? How deep is it? Is it moving? All right, now keep your nice alignment. Blow all your air out and hold it. Was the hold at the bottom different? Did you notice any sensations? Any nuance to the sensations? Location, intensity, direction, depth, size. Studying the sensations inside of you. Let's do it again. Just right where your breath is. Don't change it. Don't mess with your alignment. Just right where your breath is. Not on an inhale, not on an exhale. Just in a moment, I'm just going to tell you to stop and just stop your breath and hold and study. Okay, 1, 2, hold. Notice the location of the hold. Notice the intensity of the hold. The direction, the depth, and the size of the feeling of the hold. When you can't hold anymore, let it go. Study the same things: location, intensity, direction, depth, size. We're creating a kind of stress response in the body. Your body does this automatically, especially if you've got trauma, TBI, PTSD, MSD, whatever trauma that you're living with. Your life includes these triggered moments, and your central nervous system automatically goes into a response. Now, training is like, you train with a dummy rifle. You don't train with live bullets all the time. You only train in certain instances, but in kind of day-to-day training on the basics, we create stress-inducing environments that are safer, a little bit controlled, so that we can study them. So when the big events hit, we have a ground to study and work, as opposed to just being overwhelmed again. So now, go ahead, go through your alignment: ground, pelvis, core, heart, throat, top of the head, and I'll tell you to stop. Now, I'll walk you through it. We're going to go full inhale, hold this time, and I'll talk you through it. Full inhale, hold it. So now that you've got the hold going, notice the location of the hold. Notice if the hold is in a particular location and there's any kind of tension anywhere else, shoulders perhaps, let that tension out. Just study the hold, study its intensity. Is it moving? Does it have direction? How deep in your body is it, and how big is it? Study the pieces of the moment. Then let it go. Now study the relief. Notice its location. Notice its intensity, its direction, its depth, its size. The practice is studying the moment, studying the qualities of the moment. Not what it means, not a story, not the idea, but the qualities in the moment. Last round before we enter breath practice. Okay, when you're ready, ground, pelvis, core, heart, throat, top of the head. Take breath, blow it all out, hold. It's different feeling, it's faster, location, intensity, direction, depth, size. Notice the qualities. Hold that edge for just a moment. Notice how those qualities change the longer you hold, then release and relieve. Relieve with a new breath. Notice what the body does. Location, intensity, direction, depth, size. What does the body do when you get that relief? It may take a few moments to come back to a kind of a neutral pattern, a pattern without kind of up or down, just kind of steady, a steadiness. That steadiness, that feeling of kind of neutral zero, it's kind of the place of gratitude. As we move into fourth bell to talk about it further, you'll kind of see more what I mean in a second. Here comes fourth bell. You can't feel freedom without gratitude. Mostly what I want to talk about in this piece of the conversation, in this piece of the training, is what typically can take up the spaces that gratitude most kind of effectively takes root. So gratitude really takes root in a kind of awareness of life as it is, and a gratitude for things that are, basic and fundamental. Like the old saying, I got up this morning, I'm grateful for that, right? It's just the basics, right? Real basic stuff. And there's all, just your good old boy, or your classic the classic good old boy joke, out in the country. It's just, it's always this kind of, my neighbor's like this. There's just always this kind of like, there's always a little quip for the moment that's a little bit self-deprecating, but at the same time, it's like, well, it'd be a whole lot crappier if you weren't here. It could be a whole lot worse. And it's just like this kind of like just a reinforcement of the moment. It's funny when I think about my neighbor. That's what he does all the time. He just adds little quips to the moment. He adds like a little light to the moment. Just like and it's almost always self-deprecating. It's always a little bit goofy, but it's just really like, it just hammers home this, hey, we're here right now, and it's all good. And he does that all the time. But what I experience, especially in times of upheaval and turmoil, is that we get this freedom can also trigger fear, right? So this sense of freedom is, freedom is kind of an ability to kind of move on your own without any hurdles, right? There aren't a bunch of barriers in between what you want and what you believe or what you think, and kind of turning it into a reality. And so I think what a lot of people kind of aren't aware of, but I think a lot of kind of media, social media, and government are aware of, is the ability to influence people's understanding of the barriers between themselves and their freedom, by pointing out potential barriers and saying that those barriers are keeping people from being free. And so what happens is and freedom and fear, kind of like love and hate, freedom and fear have this very kind of like balanced relationship where, like, one kind of moves and the other kind of moves. And, freedom and fear are very connected. So it's like, depending on where you're looking, you can find both right at the same time. It's like they're kind of in lockstep with each other. And so it's up to the individual. It's like, kind of, here's your head, right? Here's freedom, here's fear. At any given time, you can find both, right? So, at any given time, you can kind of downcast your awareness and there's fear. At any given moment, you can look up and there's freedom, right? That's the freedom of thought, right? So, what is very effective is fear. Fear is, everybody can feel fear. It's one of those things that kind of takes on a very rudimentary level, because you could say fear is more tied back into here. Okay, fear is our lizard brain. Freedom, the concepts of freedom, the experiences of freedom in the big picture, that's kind of up here. That's kind of our humanity. And so interacting with kind of social media and the kind of the world that we're in right now creates a lot of pull and a lot of push towards, this is what you need to be afraid of. This is what's going to come and take your freedom. This is what is coming after your freedom. You have to protect your freedom. And so this feeling of fear can be very much powered by our love for and desire of freedom. And so what gratitude does is gratitude kind of takes that kind of pull, the pull of fear, and messes it up a little bit. When you have gratitude for what you have, and kind of going back to my neighbor, it's like little stuff, you're working on a job and you realize, man, if you're working on a job with two people, it's a simple job. How many people does it take to screw in a light bulb? But you got three people on that job, and everyone's kind of doing what they can. And so in one sense, you could like what my neighbor does is he'd just say, he'll say, he'll make the joke, three people to roll in a light bulb. But another thing you could say was, three people on one job makes you finish 5 times as fast, right? So it's just this kind of engagement with just the simplest things, the simplest, littlest things. And everybody kind of feels like, yeah, just kind of that little smile, that little kind of thing. So that's gratitude, right? That's how gratitude boosts, just a basic moment. Like if gratitude was a number, it'd be like 0. It's just it's just foundational. But fear can take on that same kind of thing. And fear is very activating. So if gratitude is very grounding, kind of stabilizing. Fear is very activating. So, one's kind of 0, the other's kind of -1. And so the kind of engagement with the two experiences is quite significant. It's quite significant for our health. And so, so when I say you cannot feel freedom without gratitude, what I'm saying is that you've got to and it's okay to be afraid or to worry and to want things to be kind of moving in a positive direction. But if you're not engaging with what you're grateful for on a regular basis, you become much more susceptible to the pull of fear. And we've got politicians, and we've got a global economy and a global world and a local economy and a whatever. We've got all that right now that's going on in the world. And so there's plenty of reasons to be afraid. But there's also plenty of reasons to still feel gratitude. And so gratitude is just a really, really powerful tool. So if you want to feel the freedom that you have, you've got to engage with what you're grateful for. So please feel free to share what you're grateful for today, maybe what you're grateful for in your own kind of life situation. Maybe it's little stuff, real little stuff. Just grateful for food, grateful for coffee. I'm very grateful for the fact that I'm about to go grab a cup of coffee. Just real simple stuff. So, I'd love to hear what you're grateful for, and I'd love to hear how you will kind of go into the day and maybe meet fear with gratitude, and that's one of these things that I think it's really cool to understand, is that these thought patterns, these emotions, they just don't hold up in certain environments. Like fear just cannot hold. You can't hold fear and gratitude inside of you at the same time. The impacts of fear in your body can resonate, but you can't hold an idea of fear and an idea of gratitude in your head at the same time. So even if there is resonating fear that's resonating through your body, if you shift your mind to gratitude, you can just jack it up. Fear gets confused with gratitude. It just doesn't work right. That's one of these things about your emotions. And there's a lot of things like that. There's a lot of like hate can't really do its thing around love and patience. It gets all flummoxed, right? It's like, damn. It's kind of like violence and water, right? You can punch water all you want, but water just kind of like, okay. And so the violence just kind of wears itself out. It's like, ugh. The same thing happens with fear and gratitude. Fear just kind of can't operate very well inside of gratitude. So that's the lesson for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts or your intentions for how to kind of meet the day with gratitude, or meet any fear that you might be experiencing with gratitude, and share it with the rest of us. Great hanging out with you, Armor Down. Remember, next week, taking a week off. So I'll see you later. But I'll see you tomorrow.